Lesson 9, Chapter Cell, the Unit of Life. Students, in this video, today I'm going to discuss about a very important organelle of a cell, and this is called as mitochondria. The mitochondria, they are generally visible under the light microscope also, if observed carefully. And the more prominent structure it can be found in case of the electron microscope only. So therefore, in the year 1880, Kolliker, he first had seen it in the muscle cells of insect. When he tried to isolate the muscle cells of insect, so he was the first one to report that there is a structure, and the name mitochondria that was given by Benda in the year 1898. And as the mitochondria, they are called as the powerhouse of a cell. So this particular function for respiration, it was recognized or reported by Hogboom and his co-workers in the year 1948. So that means from 1948, the mitochondria, it was recognized as the powerhouse of a cell, because there the energy, that is ATP, is synthesized, and therefore the mitochondria, that is called as the powerhouse of a cell. Now, as far as the occurrence of mitochondria is concerned, then mitochondria, that is found in all the aerobic eukaryotic cell. So let me repeat it again, that it is found only in case of the aerobic eukaryotic cell, and it is absent in case of anaerobic cells, which are eukaryotic in nature. Then in case of the eukaryotic cell, it is totally absent in case of mature RBC, and in case of the prokaryotic cell, they are totally absent. So we can say that the occurrence of mitochondria, that would be more in case of the aerobic eukaryotic cell, and not all the eukaryotic cell they possess mitochondria. And depending upon the organ or depending upon the tissue, so there can be difference in the number. And also it is found that some of the eukaryotic cells which are aerobic in nature, such as the mature RBC, so they do not have mitochondria, or they might degenerate or disappear in case of such cells, such as the RBC cells. Now let's come to the structure of mitochondria. The structure of mitochondria, that may vary. Some mitochondria, they can be that of the saucer shape, and sometimes it can be either spherical, oval, cylindrical, filamentous, or even branched in its structure. So they are found in different forms in case of different cells. Then the size of mitochondria, that can be around 1 to 5 micrometer in case of a spherical mitochondrion. Mitochondrion, that is the singular term for that of mitochondria. In case of cylindrical mitochondria, this can be around 1 to 4 micrometer long and 0.2 to 1 micrometer thick. Now let's come to the structural content of mitochondria. If discussed about the chemical composition of this particular structure, then mitochondria, they are generally made up of 60 to 70% of protein, lipids, that is around 25 to 35%, RNA, as RNA is also present there, Therefore, it can be around 5 to 7%. DNA is also found in the mitochondria in very small quantity, and there are many mineral traces, and especially that of manganese, calcium, phosphate, etc. The mitochondria, it is made up of two membranes. That is, it is bounded by two membranes. One is the inner membrane and the other one is the outer membrane. You can refer to the diagram here that there are two membranes. The outer membrane, that is smooth and that is a permeable layer. That means every outer component or material that can pass through this outer layer, which is called as the outer membrane, and is generally smooth, and it has porine proteins which forms channels for the passage of these molecules through it. So they are made up of specialized proteins. As you know, the structure of the cell membrane. So here the membranes, they basically occur in the same composition only, as we have studied there, that it is made up of phospholipid bilayer, then the proteins that is present there. So here they have some special proteins which are called as the porins, which is part of the integral proteins. You can refer to the video where the cell membrane that is discussed. So that is part of the integral protein. So this outer membrane of mitochondria, they have such kind of membrane. So they generally this membranous structure, so that is same in case of all the parts of a cell. And this particular membrane, that is the one which is present in the outer membrane, so there it have the channels where the molecules they can pass through easily, and therefore it allows the uptake of the substrates and release the ATP. Then comes to the inner membrane. But this inner membrane, that is semi-permeable in nature. That means it do not allow any material directly to pass through it. So it generally allows on the specific material into and out of the mitochondria. And generally this particular membrane, it is rich in enzymes and carrier proteins. Therefore they bears the carrier proteins. And there are numerous infolds. As you can see in the diagram there, that there are many infolds, as there are some foldings that goes towards the inner part of the mitochondria. And this infolds, that is called as the cristae. So cristae, that is the part of the inner membrane of mitochondria. So this cristae, it extends inward as infolds and may be simple or branched, or it can be straight or zigzag, or in case of animal cells that can also be lamellar or tubular in case of the plant cells. The function of this cristae, it is that it increases the inner surface area of the mitochondria to hold a variety of enzymes. As you know that mitochondria, it makes or it synthesizes ATP molecule, which is a very important part of a cell. The cell, it has its energy from the ATP molecules only. So for such production, variety of enzymes are required, and therefore this mitochondria that is specially formed, and especially this inner membrane where they have the infolds so that they can increase the surface area for the mitochondria to work properly or to function properly. Now in the inner membrane, towards the inner part, the inner membrane towards the inner part, it bears minute lollipop shaped structures called as the oxygome. Go through the diagram that you can see there are some lollipop shaped structures that is just attached to the inner membrane of the mitochondria, and they are generally lollipop shaped. And this lollipop shaped structure which are attached to the inner membrane of mitochondria, that is called as oxygome, or that is also called as the F0, F1 particles. The oxygome, it consists of three parts, that is the rounded head, which is called as the F0 subunit. Here I am trying to show this individually or the magnified version, that the rounded form, the upper rounded form, that is called as the F1 subunit, and this F1 subunit, it is joined by a short stalk to the base, and this is called as the F0 subunit. So as this oxygome, it is made up of these two parts supported by a stalk. Therefore, this is called as the F0, F1 particles, where there are electron transport channels, which we will discuss it in the chapter, that is respiration. And this oxygome, that is the part where the ATPs are finally synthesized, because they contains an enzyme which is called as ATP synthase. These oxygomes, there only the ATP is synthesized in a cell, which is the energy currency for a cell. And for this particular region, the mitochondria, that is called as the powerhouse of a cell. Then towards the inner part of the inner membrane, so there you will find the matrix. So matrix, so that is the jelly-like substance, and as it is present inside the mitochondria, that is why it is called as the mitochondrial matrix. And this mitochondrial matrix, it contains proteins, lipids, ribosomes, RNA, DNA, etc. Now let's come to the functions of mitochondria. The first function of mitochondria, it is that it is the main site of cellular respiration. Cellular respiration, that means after the glucose is broken down within the cell, the substrate that is left, that goes to the mitochondria, where the production of ATP takes place. And this production of ATP or synthesis of ATP, that is only called as cellular respiration. And therefore, mitochondria, that is called as the powerhouse of a cell. Then comes the second function, where the mitochondria, it provide intermediates. So they makes intermediates for the synthesis of important biomolecules, such as the chlorophyll molecule. As you know, what is the utility of chlorophyll molecule within a cell? So chlorophyll molecule, that generally helps in the process of photosynthesis, such as the cytochromes. That is also another biomolecule which is very much important for the purpose of photosynthesis. Then steroids, all these are or the production of all this requires intermediate, which is provided by the mitochondria. Then some amino acids like glutamic acid, aspartic acid, these are some amino acids, important amino acids, which are formed within the mitochondria. Then the fourth function is that the mitochondria may store and release calcium when required. And the fifth function is that the matrix contains enzymes for the synthesis of fatty acids. So these are few functions of the mitochondria, and its most important function is the production of ATP, because it have the enzymes which can produce ATP from the glucose molecule. So this is all about the mitochondria that I have discussed here in the video, and here basically the structure and the function that is important. And the structure, that is quite simple, where the mitochondria, it possesses the outer membrane, which is a permeable one, the inner membrane. So that comes as a zigzag one because of the infold of the inner membrane, where the lollipop shape structures are present, which is the oxygome. And otherwise the rest of the inner part of the mitochondria, that is covered, or that is filled with the mitochondrial matrix, which is made up of protein, lipids, DNA, RNA, etc. Thank you.